5 deeper root causes for chronic pain and illness that you need to address in order to heal. Now, when I'm first working with clients one-on-one in therapy or in my digital course, treatment often starts by changing our thoughts and beliefs about our body and about our symptoms, and with brain retraining exercises such as somatic tracking or embodiment practices. And this makes sense. For a lot of people, they understand that their symptoms are neuroplastic. And I'm here to tell you that most chronic pain and symptoms are neuroplastic, or at least a good portion of your pain and symptoms are neuroplastic in nature. Now, what this means is that your body is not damaged or diseased, or it's not fully damaged or diseased, and your symptoms are occurring due to the brain and nervous system being stuck in a state of danger and survival. And what people usually start to address at first is they address their negative thoughts and beliefs they have about their body and about their symptoms. They change the nervous system and emotional response they have to their pain and symptoms. So say you have pain and usually you have an anxious or an angry response, or maybe a sad, despairing response. People start to rewire that. They work on responding safer somatically to the actual symptoms. The other thing that we focus on pretty early on is changing your behaviors, starting to use your body more, starting to reduce avoidance, starting to, build a life that fully allows your brain to understand that your body's healthy and capable. Now, many years ago, when I was first doing this work with people, that's a lot of the time where I would focus. Thoughts and beliefs, brain retraining, graded exposure. I really focus there, and I don't want to knock that because that's a big part of my approach. I have lots of videos on this channel to support you rewiring your brain and unlearning your chronic pain and symptoms. But for some people, that's not enough. And so what I would see is, some people with the brain retraining, thoughts and belief work, they would get better. I'd never hear from them again. They get better, move on with their lives, and be great. For other people, they would get better, and then I would see them 6 months later with a new symptom, or their symptom came back. And for some people, that brain retraining stuff, it wasn't enough. And what I learned is that they weren't addressing the deeper root causes of their chronic pain and chronic illness. We need to do the deeper nervous system work and understand what are these root causes that cause my pain and symptoms to occur in the first place. Because otherwise, we're just going to have these serial symptoms, or our symptoms are just going to keep coming back, and then we're going to get stuck there again. So brain retraining is great, but we need to address the deeper root cause that's underneath. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain 5 really common root causes of your chronic pain and illness that we need to start addressing. So as I go through these, see what you relate to. If you need extra support after this video, my therapy clinic works with people located in Canada. And actually right now I'm accepting clients for the first time in a few months, but I also have lots of great therapists on the team. And I also have my digital course, which helps you address these deeper root causes. So let's dive into this list. Number 1, chronic nervous system dysregulation. For a lot of people, their nervous system, long before their pain and symptoms began, was chronically dysregulated. For myself, this was the case. Now, chronic nervous system dysregulation, it keeps your brain locked in this danger mode, in this survival mode. And as a result, your nervous system sensitizes and it starts to produce pain or physical symptoms. And like I said, if we just do the brain retraining to address the pain and symptoms, sometimes we have this chronic nervous system dysregulation underneath that we need to address. Now, chronic nervous system dysregulation can look a lot of different ways. It can look like flight, which is more nervous, anxious, all the way to panic, hypervigilance. It can look like fight, which is more angry, frustrated, rage, excessive fixing, controlling. It can look like fawn. So the fawn response, it's less known, but the fawn response is more trying to get social approval, people pleasing, perfectionism. Um, there's a lot of factors where we just don't have boundaries. We don't express ourselves openly. And it is a nervous system response where we're doing this fawn response to try to create safety. And any nervous system response, your nervous system is going into it trying to protect you, but usually we just get stuck here. And freeze and shut down, which is despair, hopelessness, helplessness, numb, disconnected, dissociation at the farther end of it. And so fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and shut down are these nervous system states. And we want to identify this because if we have chronic nervous system dysregulation underneath our pain and symptoms, even if the pain and symptoms reduce, we'll just be on to the next symptom. And so this chronic nervous system dysregulation needs to be addressed. I have a lot of nervous system videos on this channel. In my digital course, I have a whole whack of practices as well. Now, I will put down below a free meditation for regulating the nervous system, for creating calmness. It's not everything that you need, but it's a good starting place because starting to regulate our nervous system, connect with our nervous system, take cues off of our nervous system, addresses this deeper cause underneath our pain and physical symptoms. Number 2, childhood adversity. For a lot of people, long before they developed chronic pain and symptoms, they had a childhood where they just felt chronically unsafe. Now, this is a spectrum. What I'll see people do is they think, I had a pretty good childhood. Because we hear these stories of extreme abuse. And so we think that's childhood adversity, which it is. And if you went through that, I deeply am empathetic about that. That's incredibly hard, but it is a spectrum. For some people in childhood, they were bullied. They had parents that argued a lot. There was high conflict in the home. Having a parent with a mental health concern or a substance use issue with like drugs or alcohol. Having a parent that was in prison, but could also be bigger things like emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. Childhood adversity, when that happens, our nervous system is deeply affected. It gets locked in dysregulation. It gets locked in danger mode. And eventually people keep going on throughout their life and pain and symptoms eventually click on because our nervous system just gets locked there. And eventually it sensitizes, it produces pain and symptoms. I have seen people do such courageous work here where they process their childhood adversity with myself. I'm incredibly grateful when people do that. I think it's really difficult and they're making such a huge step towards their healing. Even in our digital course, we've seen a lot of people use our trauma process for processing childhood adversity. But these are these deeper causes, understanding that in childhood, we felt unsafe. And then as we grow up as adults, our nervous system is wired to look for danger. It's constantly feeling unsafe, even if we actually are safe. It doesn't actually matter in the present moment if we're physically safe. If we face childhood adversity, we get locked in danger mode, survival mode. Number 3, trauma. So I just discussed childhood adversity, which is a form of trauma, but we also can have trauma throughout our life. Accidents, surgeries, abuse, lots of overwhelming events that take place to us, they affect us. When we look at the stats, trauma, chronic pain, chronic symptoms, they are unfortunately best friends. You're about 2.7 times more likely to develop chronic pain, chronic fatigue, IBS, other chronic symptoms if you face trauma. That's huge. You're 2.7 times more likely to develop chronic symptoms if you face trauma. That's more than double compared to the population that hasn't faced trauma. And we've known this for a long time. We've known this for decades, and now we have effective treatment. But this is one of these deeper causes that I support people with because we need to go into the trauma memories, process, work through them, and eventually learn and teach our nervous system that we're physically safe, that we're okay. But we can't just tell it that cognitively. When we talk about trauma, trauma is not the event. I know in pop culture, people think, they were in a huge accident. That's the trauma. The trauma is not the event. The trauma is the nervous system response of fight, flight, fawn, freeze, or shutdown. That's the response that's chronically dysregulated when the overwhelming event happened, and it just continues on. And for a lot of people, as I've said, the brain retraining, the thought work around the pain and symptoms is a great start, but they need this deeper trauma work where they're processing things, treating it, and moving through it. And that is possible. For myself, I had traumatic things happen to me in the past, and I had to work on that eventually to become pain and symptom free. Now, two types of trauma I want to quickly mention that are really common with chronic pain, chronic symptoms is you have medical trauma. So this is trauma from scary medical events, procedures, stigmatization that we face with the medical community. This is so common with chronic pain and symptoms because people have so much interaction with the medical system. I'm working with people on medical trauma probably each and every week in multiple sessions. It is that common, and these medical events, they're really dysregulating for a lot of us. I know it's normal for us to think, oh, you're ill, you get a surgery, you get better. But that's really overwhelming to your nervous system. Now, the second type of trauma is what we call in my approach sensitization trauma. This is trauma, a trauma response to the onset or progression of your chronic pain, chronic symptoms, which is really common. Chronic pain and symptoms, when they onset or worsen, that's incredibly dysregulating for us. And for a lot of people, they struggle with the brain retraining because they have this deeper trauma response to certain memories that have happened in the past around their chronic pain or symptoms. So it's definitely something I really recommend people focus on. It's a big focus of my digital course, this medical trauma and sensitization trauma. Number 4, social danger. Social danger. This means that your lifestyle, the way you're living life, approaching life, for a lot of people, it's with perfectionism, people-pleasing, excessive conscientiousness, and also factors of your life, work, school, family, friends, community, larger society. Social danger means that the lifestyle or factors in your life are increasing this sense of nervous system danger. What I'll see people do is they do all the micro work, internal work, which is really important, whether that's thoughts and belief work, brain retraining, emotional, nervous system regulation, and even trauma work. But they're doing the internal work. But what happens to people is they're almost applying it like Band-Aids to support a lifestyle that doesn't create a sense of safety and connection. For myself, I fell victim to this. My lifestyle involved me working 70 hours a week in fight or flight all the time, pushing like I was bursting at the seams with a lot of the danger I was facing and just the way I was living life. There was also factors in my life. There was toxic friends. And social danger, it needs to be addressed. We've known this for a long time. Like if you're part of a minority group, things like racism, discrimination, they all increase rates of chronic pain and symptoms. And that's not by coincidence. People that are facing a lot of social danger are more likely to have their nervous system sensitized, producing chronic pain and symptoms because it's just too much for us to tolerate. Social danger is hard to address because it can involve bigger life changes. I had to change factors of my life. I had to change the way I lived life. But don't just apply all these micro strategies as Band-Aids to support a life that creates a sense of danger. We need to address that. We need to be courageous and start to make changes in our life so our lifestyle, the way we live life, factors in our life are naturally increasing this sense of safety, because that way we don't have to excessively use everything else because our life, the way we're living, aspects of it just are creating this deep regulation, safety, and connection to the world. So don't really reflect on this. I think this is something that's often missed when people come to me and they've been doing a mind-body approach for 2 years. Often it's this social danger that hasn't been addressed. And lastly, number 5, pathological views of the body. For a lot of people, due to our medical system, due to the culture in their family, due to our society, they have this fundamental belief that their body is flawed and there's something fundamentally wrong with it. I fell victim to this from a young age just due to see my pain, like my parents have pain symptoms and treat it physically. And, all these other like cultural things, the medical system, my interactions, I had this fundamental belief from a young age there's something wrong with my body. There's something fundamentally wrong with it. It caused me a lot of health anxiety. Now, I know this could be argued to be part of brain retraining where you're changing your thoughts and beliefs about your pain sensations, symptom sensations, about your body in general. Sure, we can argue that's part of that, but I think for some people, it's way deeper than that. They just have this fundamental pathological view of the body. And I'm really supporting people to understand that their body is way more capable, way more healthy than they think. Because if we have this pathological view, there's something flawed with the body, it's almost near impossible to heal because we just don't trust our body. We want to disconnect from it. We don't want to attend to any of the sensations inside because we think it means that there's something really wrong. But this is this deeper root that we need to treat sometimes and start to change the way we view our body, understand it's healthy and that it's capable. So I hope this video was helpful on understanding these 5 deeper root causes for chronic pain, chronic symptoms. Reflect on this, see what ones you relate to, because these need to be addressed. Again, if you need support, my therapy clinic's there to support you. And we also have our digital course, and I'll put those links down below. In both of those services, we are really supporting people in identifying the deeper causes of their pain and symptom and starting to address them. So please put your questions or comments down below. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.